G'day, it's Karl Thomson here from StorageCraft. Thank you for attending this webinar today. Just to let everyone know that the webinar is being recorded. Everyone is on mute. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the questions section, and I will come back and answer them at the end. So as I'm going along, if anything pops to mind, feel free to put it in the questions there. I'm happy to demonstrate anything or discuss anything further. Additionally, everyone will be emailed a link to a recording of the webinar, and it will also be posted to our StorageCraft APAC YouTube channel as well. A lot of great content on there. So today's topic, why you need to include the cloud in your disaster recovery plan. So there's a couple of key solutions I'm going to be covering off from the StorageCraft perspective, but at a very high level, obviously the cloud is becoming, a very big beast, and a lot of different offerings are available. And really, the ultimate thing that we're seeing our successful partners take advantage of is getting this high quality infrastructure available as a service. And that's really the key thing. It's giving us far greater infrastructure and services at an easy monthly price. So really the focus from StorageCraft is always about recovery. If we can't recover something, then what's the point in backing up? So obviously with our on-prem reliable backup solution comes a way to recover that in the cloud. So the first part of this webinar, I'm going to be talking about our ShadowProtect solution and how that integrates into cloud offerings for recovery, disaster recovery, archival, all that kind of stuff, how we can automate this type of solution. And then I'll follow on and talk about protecting SaaS applications in the cloud. So that's the other key thing that quite often gets forgotten as we move that Exchange server that was backed up into Office 365. It's in the cloud. We kind of forget that probably we should have a backup solution in place there as well. So we're going to talk about that more towards the end of the webinar today. So just taking a quick high-level overview, on-prem, top left, you've got your production servers and workstations. ShadowProtect's backing them up to some storage on site. This is, ideally some sort of backup server. I covered off a lot of this in our best practice webinar the other week, but the key thing here is we've got options to recover on site. This is, obviously a key thing with disaster recovery, having the ability to rapidly recover back on-prem, but including cloud in that is an automated way to get the stuff off-site. We've, come a long way with our internet capacity and things, and there's, back 7-8 years ago, I used to do a lot of ShadowProtect replication to USB drives that we would rotate. But it was heavily reliant on our customers taking them off-site each day, and they were problematic just in their nature, being USB drives. So by replicating off-site, initially I was replicating to an office, at our reseller office. We've looked at data center options. We've now got connectors for S3 for archive, and obviously the StorageCraft cloud services, which is the full DR as a service. So there's so many different options. If you want to set up your own FTP server and run the free image manager software, there's no licensing for that replication from the customer site. And in the off-site location, for you to run your own DR site, there's absolutely no licensing from StorageCraft. You've got all of your image manager verification, your virtual boot recovery, head start, restore, pre-staging, all of that is entirely free to run an off-site. So it's very easy for a customer to replicate to their own branch, a reseller to replicate all of their customers back to their office or to a data center or to a private cloud. Is very easy. We've also got the S3 connector if you want sort of long-term, affordable archival, in a cloud, which is geographically redundant, and all of those benefits and the amount of 99.999 uptime and all of that kind of resiliency that the cloud has. But with a focus, I guess, on the StorageCraft cloud offering, there's a fantastic month-by-month service where you can have a copy of your backups in the cloud. And the idea is obviously we lose the site, we can completely virtualize not only the servers, but all of the networking requirements that we would need in the cloud. And that is a big thing. I remember when we used to replicate customer backups to my office, we didn't really have the ability to virtualize them. I mean, we could test them and virtual boot them, but in terms of giving the customer networking access, port forwarding, VPN, all of that kind of stuff became a bit more challenging. And this is what StorageCraft does really well. Instead of having to invest in that infrastructure yourself, you can leverage the StorageCraft DR as a service. One of the interesting things, I was actually having a conversation with a customer the other day, and they were asking, about a direct connect into the cloud. How could they have a dedicated link into our cloud? And the reality was they were trying to mitigate the risk that if their colo data center had a failure, how could they continue operations? But if they had that direct connect or that dedicated link going back to that source location, it actually becomes irrelevant because the users are connecting from outside of that area, and this is where the cloud becomes a really useful tool because anyone can IPSEC into the StorageCraft cloud over the internet from any location. You don't need to have these direct connects, and it becomes very accessible. There's things like remote desktop services we'll talk about that can make things really easy as well. But the idea is with the StorageCraft cloud, it's full DR as a service, all of the compute, networking, everything's available. You could, of course, simulate yourself that infrastructure, that type of solution on your own infrastructure with our ShadowProtect technology. And then, of course, the S3, again, more so for archival rather than DR, but, ways to automate getting a copy of your backups offsite. What's really important is obviously the cloud is securely in a separate networks, very much isolated from your local network environment. And obviously one of the big things with disaster recovery is familiar to everyone is what you see on the evening news, fire, floods, earthquakes. But now with things like ransomware, the need to get backups off-site regularly, sometimes often is throughout the day, becomes critical to make sure that stuff's securely somewhere else and not going to be disrupted by any sort of event that happens on site. So the key thing is forget about just backup and think about the bigger picture, about DR, about leveraging the cloud, these affordable options for recovery. From a licensing perspective, I've kind of covered off already. It's a ShadowProtect licensing that we need to really focus on-prem, as well as options available for services in the cloud. Just very quickly, one of the things I talked about last week was around the 3-2-1 rule. Now, the key thing here is obviously you've got your local backups on some backup storage. You might be pre-staging on site. You might be replicating to USB or NAS. But getting this stuff off site, a USB drive can be problematic, as we talked about, and leveraging the cloud with automated replication. It removes that human element of someone having to plug in, remove something, take it off site, securely store it, not drop it, all of those things. Cloud can automate that. It makes our monitoring from an MSP perspective a lot easier. It's less work involved, all of those types of things. So it might bring your management costs down even if the monthly costs go up slightly based on these extra services. Obviously, you've got the cloud, your own remote FTP side or S3 archive. There's just so many different options to automate copies of your backups to really give you resiliency against some type of ransomware event. So in terms of the StorageCraft cloud, some of the key things is obviously security and availability. We leverage a Tier 3 data center in North Ryde in Sydney, Macquarie Park, next DC. This allows us to offer 5 nines of uptime, 99.999% uptime. It's very customizable in terms of different service levels. For each machine might need something different or different retention. We've got this really cool exclusive patent called a virtual machine policy failover. Basically with this, you can say I've got 10 servers, this one's my domain controller, I want that to boot first, I want to give that a few minutes to boot, then start booting these other servers in this order or whichever you want to do. But by configuring that, as well as pre-configuring your networking, thinking about what requirements are needed for networking, we can have all of that set up in advance so we can click one button and we stand up that whole infrastructure in the cloud. And the cool thing is it doesn't cost you anything to invoke DR. It is all included in the low monthly price, which is fantastic. So again, you've got that full control yourself from the self-service portal, and there's a lot of advanced network recovery options to give you every type of connectivity that you may need. So in terms of that connectivity, just to talk about that for a minute, because this is a big part of where the cloud comes into becoming very useful for these types of DR events. So you've got your primary site on-prem in a data center, and you're replicating a copy of the ShadowProtect backups to the StorageCraft cloud. The default is just the once a day consolidated daily image that gets sent after midnight, but you could of course choose to replicate as frequent as those backups run. So you could have a recovery point objective of every 15 minutes immediately available in the StorageCraft cloud, which would be fantastic. So obviously, as we talked about at the start, if there was some sort of ransomware event or localized failure on site, you've got on-site virtual boot disaster recovery capabilities. Perhaps if you didn't have that capability, you could initiate an IPSEC Site-Site VPN to the StorageCraft cloud and have a hybrid model until you could resolve and migrate that infrastructure back on site. So I think that's a key thing, particularly with the StorageCraft cloud. Is that it is end-to-end disaster recovery. So we want you to recover in our cloud, but we also want you to get back on site. So we have a full process where we can either ship you a BMR drive or you download the backups, and then it does a final sync once you've downloaded everything with the running machine in the cloud. You can actually cut back on-prem very quickly, very easy with very minimal downtime. So we've got a fantastic end-to-end solution there. Now let's say we had an entire site disaster, fire, flood, earthquake, or maybe ransomware really took out everything, or I had a catastrophic SAN failure, and the site became unusable for whichever reason. We could invoke our users to a temporary DR site. We could do an IPSEC Site-Site VPN to get everyone back online with your infrastructure running in the StorageCraft cloud. Obviously, all your remote branch sites could be automated to automatically connect to the IPSEC VPN as well. We can have that all pre-configured, ready to fail over. And you could have users that go home. So the cloud includes the option for you to VPN, have VPN clients directly into the StorageCraft cloud. And then obviously port forwarding, so things like email services, web services, anything like that that needs to be open to the public web. You could even have an RD gateway open, and that would actually mitigate the requirement perhaps for some of your users to even need the VPN client at all. They would you would fail over the DNS record, have RD gateway running, and if it's using the same DNSA record that they've used from home for remote access before, then they don't need to do anything. They just continue to consume the applications and services that they've always used, and nothing's any different. So we can really automate this process and make it very easy, and that's really a key thing, is easy to configure, set up in advance. There's not a whole lot of stress when something goes wrong. It's all ready to go. So key things, think about where will your users go in a site disaster. Do we need site-to-site VPN, or are they going to go home? What types of applications are required? So, do all of their servers need to be in the cloud, or only some of them? Do we need port forwarding? All of those kinds of things. You want to think about that to enable your users to get access to that data in the cloud. And obviously, it all comes down to being able to pre-configure that. While that site's functional, let's look at what that firewall's doing in terms of its firewall rules and replicate that in the StorageCraft cloud. So, yeah, that's the key thing from the ShadowProtect perspective. Now, moving on, as I touched on there, why do you need to back up Office 365? So we've got a fantastic solution, and this is very much the same for G Suite as well. But thinking about this, we've moved our Exchange server. Office 365 and G Suite are becoming hugely popular services in the cloud. But what type of recovery options are available? So there's some key things here to think about. You've obviously got the flexibility with geographical high availability. There's a lot of resiliency built into these services. But there's still a lot of data loss that's happening in the cloud. So there's obviously the human factor. You've been working on something, you forget to save it, or something's gone wrong. We actually want to roll back to before that problem happened. This is, a big thing. Can we quickly and easily, granularly recover that file back? And quite often that is very limited capability. In some instances, I've heard of partners having to restore contact Microsoft, wait for days for an entire SharePoint library to be restored, and they've restored the whole thing, not just a singular file, and then they've got to go and find it. So that becomes an issue. Hackers, I think, is a massive problem, and obviously with Office 365 is really encouraging bring your own devices. So more and more people are working from home, they're using their own devices. That data is now more available, more publicly available and at more risk than ever before. Even though there might be more security measures in place, that data is now on more devices. It's more accessible to where someone might be at home and they click on a silly link on their personal email, and that then comes in and has access to other apps or the rest of that data. So this is a real problem. Not only that, but also hackers could target your actual tenant and start deleting users. Then you've lost that user's their retention that was assigned to the user, for example. So there's a whole lot of scenarios that need to be considered. Obviously, the employee that leaves, we've actually, would you believe it or not, had that happen to us in our Sydney office. Someone left and actually deleted a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't know whether it was intentional or what, but fortunately we had ShadowProtect then, and we were able to recover back to right before that happened. But this is the thing, as people leave, you might delete that user as an admin, and then they all of a sudden want it back, or that person's gone rogue, and I think that's the key thing. So when someone goes rogue, they might have a lot of access. You really want a solution that's got a mutable snapshot somewhere where I can get anything or everything back, and that's really important. And the mishap, I actually talked about this one before on the site, but it's interesting. I never really thought about this. Apparently there's apps that can cross-pollinate and start affecting other apps, and this is probably something that's going to become more and more relevant once someone's accepted to install an app and it's got some sort of control to go and do some damage. So these are really important things to think about, and really it's just because you've moved to the cloud doesn't mean you've got a satisfactory backup and recovery option available to you. So with the StorageCraft cloud backup solution, it is designed currently for Office 365 and G Suite. We're exploring a lot of SaaS applications. And some of the key things here is that it is a cloud-to-cloud backup. So you don't need to have any storage or any application configured on site. The StorageCraft cloud will connect over secure APIs to Office 365 or G Suite and automatically back up all of that data. Now, by default, we'll store that in our secure Amazon S3 storage, which we provide as unlimited storage, or you could choose to use your own Microsoft Azure storage instead. So that's very flexible. It's very secure, and it's 24/7 available from our portal so that end users or yourself as a reseller can log in, instantly search and recover. And that data is all, the APIs are all encrypted, and then it's stored at rest and encryption as well, which is really important. So that's all available through the StorageCraft partner portal or the end user cloud backup portal to give you complete control for searching and recovering that data. The searching is all pre-indexed. So this is a fantastic e-discovery tool because we index every backup that's taken, which means when you do a search, it takes 2 seconds. You can find anything across the whole tenancy and instantly download it or restore it back to any user in a tenant. So very quick and easy. That means our recovery literally just takes seconds to find and restore something. And obviously, hand in hand with that, we need really good reporting on the backups, the recovery, the auditing, and all of that is part of the solution. So something that you really need to think about is adding on the solution as customers adopt more and more cloud technology, because you're at risk here. And what StorageCraft Cloud Backup does is it backs up straight away when you add in the tenant, and then it will back up every 8 hours. So it's 3 times a day. We get a backup. It is unlimited retention, so we will retain every backup. It's completely immutable, so nothing can be deleted, and it will be retained for as long as that service is kept in the cloud. So really great tool to think about. So just before I wrap up, we've got 10 minutes left. What I would like to do is just take you through a bit of a demo from what we've talked about today. So this is our StorageCraft partner portal that all of our StorageCraft resellers have access to. In terms of the cloud services, you've got the ability to instantly provision a customer by just simply adding an account, and this is their username and password that they can log in with. Once you've set up the cloud, one of the first things you might choose to do is come in and request a C drive. That is where we can ship you a C drive. And again, this is the cloud services is for storing a copy of your ShadowProtect backups of your infrastructure and having them sent to the StorageCraft cloud for DR. So requesting a C drive allows us to put the initial backup chain onto a USB drive and courier it back rather than sending that over the internet. And we send the secure 4-disk container to help with that. Otherwise, of course, you can just send straight over the internet. I've got a bunch of machines sitting in here at the Cloud Premium which is the full DR service level. One of the next things once you've replicated machines is to then think about the networking. So it's really easy to configure subnet, VPN, request public IPs, set up any DHCP reservations and port forwardings. Otherwise, we can completely expose the whole firewall to do any configuration that you might need. And then as I touched on, we have the virtual machine policy. So this gives us the ability to say, look, on the left, here's all my servers. Let's drag them into this policy to say this server will boot first, then followed by these servers after these many minutes, and then just the one click to launch that policy and everything will start booting. So very easy, fantastic way to automate the recovery of our entire infrastructure. If I just take a quick look at one of my servers in here, this particular machine I use a bit for demo, so I can see available recovery points here. I've just got this set to the last 3 days retention, but if I click here, launch VM, just to show you the power and what we can do in the StorageCraft cloud, this has automatically selected my most recent backup. Because I'm testing, I'm going to have it auto-destroy for me, and I just simply click virtualize. So what this does is it creates a VM in the cloud, and then it starts virtualizing it. So this whole process doesn't cost you anything. It's all included in your low monthly fee. You can see because this is the first machine I've started, it's currently saying it's creating network. So that's actually launching the firewall that's been pre-configured. It takes about 30 seconds or so, and then the machine will start booting. Now, what I really like about this is that you've got complete control over the VM. So we can actually view the console. We will actually send it into Windows Boot Manager for 30 seconds if you needed to get into safe mode, or if you're testing things, you've got full control of that server from the console level. On top of that, we will start taking backups for you in a real failover and enable you to migrate back on site as soon as you're ready. So it's very easy to set up. The networking's really easy. It's very easy to launch a single server or virtualize the whole lot at once. And obviously, we've got that full control. And obviously, an important thing is to come in here and be able to test this stuff and feel confident in what you're doing. And because this is a full DR as a service, there's no cost to virtualize or initiate a DR, and because you can do it yourself, you've absolutely got all of this control. You can rest assured that you can recover your customers as quickly as possible. We've actually got this really cool $100,000 guarantee. At the moment, it's just available to our platinum partners, but based on them using our cloud, achieving our master engineer certification, StorageCraft will actually guarantee up to $100,000 that they will be able to recover their customers in the event of a disaster. So really cool. We really stand by this technology. So just while that's virtualizing, if anyone's got any questions on the StorageCraft cloud, please feel free to type them in. What I'll probably do is I'll let that virtualize, but I'll just come in and talk about our cloud backup very quickly before we run out of time, and then we'll come back and we should see that server booting. So cloud backup again is for our Office 365 and G Suite customers. Again, you have the ability to come in and instantly provision an account in the portal. So I've got a bunch of different customers here, but if we take a look, everyone gets an NFR account, all of our resellers. And in here, what I have done is added in an Office 365 tenant. In fact, I've got a G Suite one in here as well. But basically in here, I can see calendar, contact, mail, OneDrive, and SharePoint. We include the whole lot. You select the users that you want to back up, and then over in search, we can instantly search. I could do something silly like search hello. So you can imagine how many millions of hellos there are. In this small environment, I've only got 616 of them, but you can see it's instantly found that. I could filter it by email or by a particular user or by a folder. And any type of filter you do, again, it will re-filter this list because it's all pre-indexed. It's extremely fast. I'm now down into 230. Maybe I filter it by email or by inbox to, you want to easily reduce the search. And you might have searched for a PO number or a contractor's name. We're searching the whole tenancy. Maybe that's what I was looking for. I click on that. I can download it straight away, or I can just simply restore it straight back into the Office tenancy. So click Restore, choose the Office 365 provider, type in a user, and what it does, which I really like, is it creates a folder in the root of the mailbox with the name that you've specified here, and restores it there. So rather than doing it in place, if someone restored an email into my inbox, I'd never find it. There's too many emails there. So it makes it really easy, but it literally does it straight away. So yeah, it's very easy to use. Having this stuff all available in the single StorageCraft partner portal makes it extremely easy. You're leveraging a cloud-based infrastructure, so you don't have to invest in all of this hardware and colo type stuff. And as I mentioned, as you can see here, you've got full control. So back in cloud services, I'm actually watching the server live boot in the cloud. And part of our virtualization in the cloud, it does what's called a hardware independent restore. So regardless of what that server originally was on site, it could have been a HP or a Dell physical server, could have been running in VMware or Hyper-V or any of our supported hypervisors. There's over 12 different hypervisors that you can use ShadowProtect for, but we can immediately back them up as frequent as every 15 minutes and immediately send them into the cloud and instantly recover extremely quickly, just like this. So thanks for attending this webinar today. If anyone's got any questions or there's anything further you'd like to see or know, I'm happy to help you. I am a sales engineer. I'm very experienced in all of our solutions across StorageCraft. I've actually worked with StorageCraft for about 4.5 years, and prior worked at a number of resellers that extensively used ShadowProtect. So yeah, I really believe in the solution, and it's a fantastic tool that is becoming very popular with our partners. So again, this has been recorded, so if anyone would like to re-watch this, you will be sent an email. But I'm just going to jump in now and take a quick look. I think there's some questions that have already come through. Someone says, is there any way to view the presence of the base image in the cloud portal? So that's a good question. Basically, the way our cloud works is you define what's called a retention policy. So in here, for this machine, if I look under retention, I can see it's using the current retention settings of the cloud account. So if I just jump back to the cloud account, under retention, I can see here, in fact, my one's not showing here just because I've had some settings changed, but I was on retention tier 1. This just holds the last 3 daily images in our cloud. So what happens is, obviously I've uploaded the whole backup chain, but what we're doing is it's kind of, our cloud is kind of doing what's called a head start restore, if you're familiar with that with ShadowProtect. So we don't actually retain all of the backup images that you send us. We'll keep a lag window of time, but everything has been pre-staged, ready to recover quickly like you've just seen. So what I have available to me is the last 3 daily images based on my retention. I can see the incremental numbers of what was replicated. I can obviously mount them to recover, so that's the ShadowProtect incremental numbers, but I can't actually download that SPI file out of the cloud because it's been pre-staged into virtual disk. So I can choose to download that point in time by downloading it straight from here. Sorry, it's the BMR drive, which actually has an option to download. But what I will get back is actually a full image, a ShadowProtect full image, an SPF file representing that point in time. I won't get back that incremental image number. So it is important to understand, and that's why it's always good to have a second copy of the ShadowProtect backup chain, whether that's to a NAS, USB, to S3, to an FTP site, because the StorageCraft cloud is purpose-built for DR, not for archival of copy of your backup chain, so to speak. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, you won't see the base image once it's past that retention point in time. But you can choose to download a particular point in time and it will be a base image that you can recover from. So hopefully that answered your question, but if you want to go into that in more detail, I'm happy to take you aside and talk about that some more. But yeah, the StorageCraft cloud is very resilient. We use what's called a Ceph infrastructure for the storage to actually hold 3.7 copies of all data, which means we can actually lose entire racks in the data center and maintain resiliency of all of our customer data. So there's been a huge investment on StorageCraft to deliver this, and all of our partners can leverage this and resell a fantastic service to their customers. So again, I think that's going to wrap us up for today. I don't think there's any more questions that have come through. If there's anything else you have, please feel free to reach out to our sales team. We're always happy to give you a one-on-one demo or come and visit you. We're here to help. Thanks again.